You may as well just roll into it.
Okay.
My coffee's nearly gone as well.
Oh, that's your fault. Hey guys, welcome. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of our Eskate Podcast. We're going to definitely try and give this thing a name at some point. But you guys really liked the format of the first episode that we did, so we're looking to keep this format going. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this one too. But today what we wanted to discuss was specs versus reality, which can also be titled, I guess you could say, cheap versus expensive.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of boards out there, a lot of manufacturers making boards, and if you're looking to buy a board and you're looking at one that's, say, £600 and there's one that's £1,600, what is the actual differences between those costs? Because on paper, the specs seem to be very, very similar, if not the same. So
Sure.
We're going to be sort of breaking it down in this video to sort of try and explain to you how to justify expending that much money on a board and why that isn't always the case when purchasing boards. So, yeah, what are some of the... I think probably the best way we could do it is some of the most expensive boards. We'll pick one from that and then we'll name a few cheap boards, pick a cheap board and then sort of compare the two in that way.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I think I guess we could look at some of the premium ones or premium boards, or some of the manufacturers title them as. And I guess the idea is to highlight why they are classified as premium and what you're actually getting for your money. Because one thing that's so frustrating, playing off of what you just said, is you'll see somebody saying that buying a Boost It, buying an Evolve, buying, you know, even what are they, the Metro boards, it's not worth it. Because you look at the range of this board, you look at the top speed of this board, and they're like, it's the same. But it's like, I always like to give the example of like a burger. Like if you go for like a gourmet burger restaurant versus like a Burger King burger, they're both burgers, but one is significantly better than the other. And it's, I guess, trying to break down the differences of why.
Yeah, and there's reasons to that, isn't there? So
you can even look at it with a car, like a Mini and a Bentley are both cars.
They'll both do 100 miles an hour, but there's a difference.
How does it get there?
Yeah, so...
The ride, you know, the materials, all of that stuff is what we're going to be touching on in this video. So in terms of premium boards, I guess, can we still refer to Boost It as a premium board? Is that after the last episode?
I mean, that, regardless of whether the company's in business or not, they were a premium board. So
we could say
that could be a premium board. I mean, you've got Evolves, they're premium. You've got, like you said, the Metro boards. I think there's a board called Lacrosse, or somebody's probably going to let me know in the comment section down below what the actual name is. But yeah, I've heard they're really, really good boards. I'd love to actually have a go on one of those. So I'd say they're very premium boards. They're definitely over that £1,000 mark. And I think when you're stepping into that sort of territory, they're definitely classed as a premium board. You're dropping over £1,000 on a board. You know, you want to be getting something for your money, don't you?
Sure. So now if we look at, I think one of the first names, now I've got to mention that when we say cheap, we don't mean like we're going to say cheaper or lower priced. We don't mean as in crap. That's definitely something I've got to mention, because these boards out there, Eksate definitely not being a board that I'd classify as premium, but definitely not a crap board. I've always rated Eksate's products, so I think they'd be one of the ones that I'm definitely going to mention. I think Eksate for me is one of the ones on the list.
I mean, there's a few that I'd say sort of lower priced boards, which is like Walgo, Backfire, then like you said, Eksate, Meepo boards. And a lot of them have got the same specs, and compared to some of the more premium boards out there, the more expensive boards, should we say. So, yeah, I think like if we pick a premium board and one of the less expensive boards there to sort of put together against each other, so that you can sort of, then we can explain in the video like exactly what are you getting for your money, why does that cost that much, even though the board that costs less amount of money has got the same specs, essentially.
Sure. So we could, here's the argument. I guess we could say we could go Eksate X1 Pro versus Evolve Gtr Carbon.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we obviously have to mention that we're fully aware that one is a hub motor board, one is a belt-driven board, which has an impact on the cost of the board. But of course, with the Eksate X1 Pro, Eksate give the option of the Riot pack, which turns it into a belt-driven.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
It's just good to see that companies are innovating, you know, like trying to produce different products with, not only can you have the option of a hub, but you've got the belt driven version of it as well with the Riot pack. It's just, it's good to see them actually doing something like that in the electric skateboard world.
Sure. So for argument's sake, if we're to look at, I guess, a comparison between the Eksate X1 Pro with Riot and the GTR Carbon from Evolve, which are quite similar boards, both have stiff decks. Of course, we know that the Eksate can have the Riot pack or the hub motor option. We're going to look at the Riot pack with the belt-driven option, just because it's more comparable to the GTR Carbon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so if we're to look at those and discuss, I guess you could say, the key things that most people want to know, which is going to be this top speed, the range, and the general ride of the board.
Let's take a look at the prices of these boards first. So how much money are these boards? So for the Evolve Gtr Carbon, that's what, £1,600?
Yeah,
£1,600, and the Eksate X1 Pro
with
is
Riot.
about with Riot is about $899. So essentially half the price there. So in terms of price wise, the Eksate is essentially half the amount of money as the Evolve. So breaking down in this video,
is it half the board?
Is it half? Yeah, is it half the board?
This is the where it gets really tricky.
That's what I mean. This is the debate. This is where it does get tricky. Is because Eksate is especially for under £1,000, under 900 quid, you'd be stupid to get anything else but an Eksate.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. This isn't any disrespect to any other board manufacturers out there, but I think if you're looking at sort of like the £900 budget mark, and of course all-terrain wheels isn't something that you're too concerned with, 100% go for the Eksate X1 Pro. Yeah. It is by far one of the most superior boards that you can get for less than £900.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I guess, where the differences are, like for me, example, having a GTR Carbon and Bamboo, if anything goes wrong with the board, after-sale service, aftercare is something that I don't think everyone always considers when you're buying a board, especially these boards that are flying in from China all over the place. It's that, and I'm talking about, I know a lot of boards are manufactured in China, but the companies don't project them that way. I'm talking about the ones that are actually known to be a Chinese manufacturer, a Chinese company, like Meepo, for example. If these boards go wrong, what happens? I know if my Evolve goes wrong, hasn't gone wrong, touch wood. If it goes wrong, I know that there's a service centre in Dartford in London. So I can literally get on a train or jump in the car, go down there and drop my board off or ship it to them. And it'll be back to me very, very quickly.
Yeah, within a couple of days. So.
But if it's one of these random boards that you pick up online and it goes wrong, what kind of after-sales service do you have? I think that's definitely going to be a massive one that comes in. And Eksate being a really good example of that. We know that there's somewhere in the UK that repairs Eksate boards.
Yeah.
So in terms of after-sales and servicing, I think Eksate's customer service, I think it's fair to say this wasn't great at the start.
No, I think they're getting a lot better now, though. Way better with their customer service. So I mean, they are such a popular board now. I think there's a lot of people that are really interested in Eksate boards because performance and range and all the rest of it for that money that you're spending on it is really, really good. So yeah, I mean, Eksate's come a long way over the last year or so that they've been putting boards out. I mean, they're now customising and making their own trucks in-house for the boards. I mean, not that the trucks that they were using beforehand were bad in any way, shape or form, but it's just good to see that they're innovating with the Riot pack and being able to just swap over different systems and their own trucks. And, there was a company that built the battery cell directly into the board, having that really thin deck on it. So yeah, they've come a long way and they're doing like really well, I think, with their boards lately. And the new Flex has just come out as well.
I'm eager to check that out. I've not actually ridden that board yet.
I'd really like to check that out.
Yeah, but I think so. It's safe to say that that's where you kind of start to see the separation, because as far as I've been aware, especially like props to the Evolve team in the UK, they've always been crazy responsive. Like the issues that I've had with boards going wrong, like Eksate's, is that you send an email, you get a response, but then a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, no response. What do I do with my board? Where's it going? I know that's improving, but that's definitely an element that you see in the premium boards. It's like the response times, the after sale service, the care that you get when something goes wrong, trying to rectify it is on the point. And I think this comes down to the sizes of the company, because I know this because wherever Evolve has a service center in a country, I can guarantee the people that work there are working there full time. So you've always got somebody to speak to, whereas some of these other brands, it's more like a on the side job type of a...
And that again comes back to the cost of the board, because that has to be factored in some way. You can't have all of these service centres around the place that you can send your board up with full-time staff and then still be charging the same money, like £900, the same as the Eksate. You've got to pay for that, and that's another one of the reasons why boards come at a premium, and they're charging more money. So
sure. So now if we go from there, so that's, I guess you could say, the category of after sales and servicing or repairs.
Yeah.
And then we touch on the actual performance of the board. So when a company says this board is going to do, for example, the Eksate X1 Pro with Riot, Eksate claim that board is going to do roughly 16 miles. Of course, terrain, build, all of that, we know this stuff, all of that comes into play. But
there's a lot that comes into play when companies are claiming what range their board will actually do. So,
but I definitely feel, I think like with the range and the speed, when you do go for more premium brands, like again, this isn't me blowing smoke up Evolve's bum. Because it's the same with Boosted. Boosted say that their board's going to hit 24 miles an hour. It hits 24 miles an hour.
Yeah.
They say that you're going to be able to get X amount of mileage out of it in these different modes. That's what you get, or very, very close. Like I heard 6 miles in hyper mode, which is the fastest mode the Boosted board will stealth will go in mode 5. 6 miles was what was the estimate, and I was getting sort of like between 5.6, 5.7.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of how premium the board is, there's always going to be a little bit of variation with the range on it. It's just how much variation is there going to be.
Exactly. If it's like 30, 40% variation, that's really inexcusable. It's not cool. And that's, again, where you start to see a margin with different boards and different manufacturers. Whatever they claim, you find the more you pay, the more realistic the estimations are. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely fair to say.
So with so if we go, let's take a look at the Evolve. So with the X-Way versus the Evolve GTR Carbon, what is your top speed? What's the range?
Top speed claimed, this is on the 97mm wheels though, top speed of 26 miles per hour, and that has been spot on. I've hit 26 miles per hour straight away, not a problem with the 97s on easily. So when they claim it does 26, it actually does 26. But this is an interesting one because X-Way, what have you hit on the X-Way or X1 Pro?
I've not really...
And what is the top speed claimed?
The top speed claimed with turbo is 29 miles an hour.
But with turbo mode, you've got to take into account that that's literally for like 10, 15 seconds spurt at the most. So realistically, without the turbo mode on, you're looking...
27, 26.
That's it.
Yeah, but realistically, it was around the 26 mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's... Again, this is where that comes in. You can't give a top... I don't think it's fair to give a top speed of 29 miles an hour when...
It only does it for about 10
fixed
seconds.
Amount of time. Yeah, it's if you're going to... I'd rather know this is the top speed that you're realistically going to get out of the board. When you switch this turbo feature on, this is what you're going to get for this amount of time. It's just... Again, it's just more realistic so you know what you're getting, because reading that, I would assume you could have turbo on all the time and do 29 everywhere.
But it's marketing, isn't it? It's like, oh, this board will do 31 miles an hour, and everyone's like, oh, God, that's quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Get that.
And then with the range, I'm estimated with the X-Way X1 Pro with the Riot kit was 16 miles. But we both know, even like riding conservatively, riding as cautiously as we can, riding recklessly and fast. This is our biggest peeve with the X-Way. It was how quick that battery drops.
Drained.
Yeah, like 16 miles is... I mean, I'm not a massive guy. I don't weigh like 100 kilograms or something like that. I'm like 70, like the mid 70s mark with my weight. And I couldn't really push it past 9-10 miles. That's all I was going to get out that board.
Yeah, I think actually with the X-Way 1 Pro, we was realistically hitting about the same, not far off the boosted, was we?
Yeah.
In terms of battery consumption, because I remember when you was riding the boosted and I was riding the X-Way, we was checking battery percentage and all the rest of it, and we wasn't far apart, was we?
No, it was pretty similar. So I mean,
that was in the savage mode, full blast, everywhere.
I was in hyper mode. You were in the fastest mode on the X-Way. And we were essentially. So we both know that the boosted board in hyper mode, you're looking at just under 6 miles in range.
Yeah.
So that's realistically what the X-Way will do. It'll do a little bit more, but then your speed is just
completely destroyed.
Yeah, I've always got to preface this by saying when we talk about the distance that we're able to get in a board in terms of its range, we call it rideable range. Like when the board drops, like say the board does on average 26, 27 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden you're doing 17 miles an hour. To me, that's not rideable anymore. Like we're done.
It's not fun.
That's not fun.
Time to charge.
Yeah, so when we get there, like essentially we discontinue the amount of mileage that the board can do, because unless we're doing a range test, then of course we're going to mention it, but rideable range for us is all we care about. I don't care if the board can do 3 miles extra in a slower mode, because I don't want to ride in a slower mode.
Slow mode, no.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
For sure. So if we move from there to looking at justifying the cost of the board based on the materials, where it's been made and what the board has been made using, what's your take on the Evolve GTR Carbon?
Well, definitely with the GTR Carbon, you've got to take into fact that it's made from carbon fibre, the deck's carbon fibre, so that's not cheap in itself. But there's also a lot of other premium bits on there, like the double kingpin trucks, and then you've got all the different gearing in there, the ECU, the battery cells that they're using. It all comes at a value, especially when it comes to the battery packs that they have inside the boards. They are expensive. The batteries are expensive, so they're using good battery cells that are being able to give you good range, good power output, and there's a lot of premium parts that go into an Evolve board to make it cost them as much as it does. They're not just using generic Chinese made parts from around the world. They're using good top quality parts, and a lot of them is made in-house as well. So,
for sure, and obviously this isn't a dig at X-Way in any way, shape or form. We're just looking at generalizing premium boards versus boards that aren't premium, that are sub $1,000, £1,000.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I like to call them...
Not trying to bash anyone.
Yeah, I like to call them Frankenstein boards, where it's essentially, it might be like a custom deck that they've made, but then every other piece of the board comes from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I guess where you really see the difference in premium versus not premium is when a manufacturer builds everything for their board themselves. All of the parts are unique, even the bushings, like everything is made by them.
That's it.
And that's obviously going to have a hefty price tag behind it, but it's justified in my opinion. I guess we go from there to also the customization of the boards. That's obviously another big element that affects the cost.
Yeah, definitely a big element. I mean, like with the Evolve boards, you've got the ability to be able to use AT wheels, street wheels, different gear setups. I mean, the amount of customizations that you can do with the Evolve boards are just unreal. You can swap and change everything about. And I know with Eksate as well, I know that they're really doing well with innovating with that Riot pack, being able to do swappable stuff with that. But you still can't put the AT wheels on the Eksate.
Yeah, I think when you're able to put if Eksate design an AT wheel, I think they're really going to be challenging.
Be onto something then.
Yeah, because my biggest peeve with Eksate was I don't like the stiff decks. It's not my preference. The only stiff deck that I've actually enjoyed riding is the carbon, based on the shape of it and the way that the double kingpin trucks maneuver.
Yeah,
you don't feel like you're, I guess
on a stiff deck necessarily, just because of the way the deck's made and it's sort of concave and it's got little bits for your feet to sit in nicely. It just sort of makes it feel less like just a straight flat plank, if you know
exactly
a stiff plank. But
for sure, so that's definitely another big one. And then obviously they've dropped the flex. That's why I'm so keen to see how that board performs in comparison to some of the other ones. But
that looks nice. That board, the flex looks real nice.
Yeah, I'm keen to jump on that this summer. That should be good.
Eksate, send one out.
So I guess from there, the underlining question is, I think Eksate is such a good brand to put against a premium skateboard.
Yeah, they're about as good as you're going to get with the lower end board. Well, not the lower end boards, you know what I mean? But the
sub 1,000.
Sub 1,000 boards. They're about as good as you're going to get, really.
So how do you justify, in your opinion, me dropping £900 to get an Eksate X1 Pro with Riot versus getting an Evolve GTR Carbon? Like, what are the factors I need to consider? Some
of the factors, I think a lot of it's going to be down to your personal preferences and what you intend to do with the board itself. If you're just looking for a board to sort of commute backwards and forwards from work, 6 or 7 mile trip, then the Eksate is going to be perfectly fine for you. If you're going to be looking to do a lot more serious ride a lot further for a longer period of time, and you want to be really carving the board, maybe going off-road a little bit and stuff like that, then you'd want to get something like an Evolve board, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think the factors really come down to, like you said, it's what your needs are for the board.
What your needs are, yes.
Yeah, if you're looking for a skateboard just for a bit of fun. And I guess another big factor is where you're riding. If you're riding in a city like London, for example, where we all know the roads are trash, it's dangerous riding with a board that only has street wheels, because obviously, as we know, street wheels just don't perform well on the terrain in London. It's
one of those things though, because I remember when we was riding just street wheels all the time.
You didn't know any better.
We didn't know any better. Tried like the AT wheels. The 7-inch AT wheels on there were just a little bit too... We just haven't got the top end there. But the 6 inches on the Evolve boards are just like the ideal setup, aren't they?
I've got to say, because I know that like some of you are going to be watching this thinking, oh my god, you guys like pull your fanboys, pull your out of Evolve. But the thing is, it's we rode those boards, and like, I'm not going to lie, if you watch my review of the Evolve boards, the first time I stepped on one, I hated it. I was like, oh my god, I've wasted my money. And then after riding those double kingpin trucks and understanding how they move, it was like, oh, I get it now. I'm not the feeling that I had that I was slipping out when I was taking corners.
There's an adjustment period, isn't there?
Yeah, you get this weird sensation, and once you adapt to it, it is difficult to ride any other boards. It's the reason that we're so hooked on these boards is because of how
reliable, the amount, I think, like range wise as well, how much range you get. When we was with X-Ways and the boosted boards and stuff, we always had to be cautious about how far we was riding. Oh, we're going to need to charge soon. Now with the Evolve boards, obviously we're not having to worry about that so much. We're just flying around. There's no sort of, it's just so much more chilled.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why they can justify charging the amount they're charging, because you don't sit there and have to think, oh shit, we're going to have to charge soon, or you just ride.
Yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. I guess what it's doing, all of the factors that are in your head about the things that most skateboards make you feel cautious about.
Yeah.
Surfaces that you're riding on, weather conditions, is it wet, is it slimy, how far am I going? It's all of that you don't even have to worry about, and that's been the main reason why we've just kind of like converted over, and it's been hard to kind of adjust and try. Yeah, it's difficult, but at the same time, I guess the underlining factor here, trying to figure out if the sub £1,000 board mark is for yourself or the plus, is just taking into consideration the points that we've mentioned. What do you need the board for is first and foremost, and then just figuring out what your riding style is. Do you just want something for short trips, or do you want something to absolutely go out and abuse the hell out of the board?
That's it, yeah, definitely. That's what it's going to be all down to at the end of the day, what your need is.
But I guess
we're just trying to touch upon in this video the differences between spending less than £1,000 and spending over £1,000 on a board. What are the differences, and why do the boards cost so much money compared to the boards that are not costing as much money, essentially, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. So we can say that it comes down to specs. How realistic are the specs that they give? How realistic
the specs are, yeah.
Then it comes down to after-sale service in terms of servicing, repairs, any of that type of stuff.
Yep, definitely.
Also comes down to the customization of the board. How many options does the board give you to be able to make it customized for your own particular riding style? And I guess your needs, as you mentioned, that definitely comes into that. For example, if you are a very heavy rider, you can't look at a board like a bamboo or a booster board because the flexi deck is just not going to be good for a big rider.
Not going to be good for you, no.
You're going to need something that's stiff and
like
going to be able to support you.
Or like an X-Way deck as well. So.
For sure. So all of those factors come into play, and that's what you need to consider when you're trying to figure out.
One thing I would like to mention as well is obviously with the Evolve boards, you're essentially getting two boards in one. Because not only can you use street wheels, you can use the all-terrains as well, the AT wheels. So essentially, it's two different boards.
How much did Evolve pay you to say that?
No, it's true though. It's true though.
No, you're right.
If you buy an X-Way or a Meepo or a backfire board and you're running not ATs, you're running street wheels on it, you can't then just go and get an AT wheels and put them on it because they're not going to fit.
Yeah,
that's true. You can't go off-road, and if you eventually meet up with a group of guys, or if your friend gets one that's got AT wheels on it and he's riding all off-road, up curbs, not having to worry about going over bumps in the road and that, you're going to be like,
yeah,
I wish I had one of those.
I guess the underlying factor is if manufacturers want to create more competition and want to be able to offer products that people are actually going to seriously consider over the premium brands, is to create more options for people to be able to customize their boards. I don't think to date, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've not come across a worthwhile manufacturer that offers gears like Evolve does, and then another worthwhile manufacturer on top of the gears offers the wheel options like Evolve does. I think it would be nice generally to see if people like companies like Backfire could create boards that I guess you could say were real off-roaders, and none of this if anyone rides wheels that are AT wheels that don't have any tubes, I honestly don't understand how people enjoy those, because it has the same issues as
a street wheel, because the rubber that's on them is as hard as nails.
Yeah, so if there's any moisture on the ground whatsoever, or like debris like dust or sand, like you've got no grip.
You've got no grip.
So I don't get it. I know the idea of, you don't have to worry about the wheels popping or getting a flat tire. Like that's never happened to us. I don't see why you'd want to ride a wheel like that. It's
just make sure you've got a spare inner tube or something in your back and
you're
good to go.
I think more companies just need to look at designing AT wheels for all of the different boards that they offer, or like not even creating a board specifically for off-road, creating boards that are hybrids that you can switch between the two options.
Because riding the AT wheels is just so much more comfortable and such a more pleasurable ride than riding the street wheels now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that love their street wheels, but after riding street wheels and then riding ATs, I'm now just like, I can't ever go back to street wheels now. It's just too much fun. The amount of grip you've got with those AT rubber as well.
Yeah.
You can just chuck it about and you're just not sliding anywhere, are you? Even in the wet. So,
that was the one that killed it for me.
That's savage. Just being able to like carve still in the wet when it's damp and just not really worry is, you couldn't do that in the street wheels. You'd just be gone.
No, it's dangerous. That's the thing.
It takes the fun out of riding, doesn't it?
I think so, especially living in a country where the weather is so difficult to predict. If you've got a board that can kind of compete with riding in the wet, riding in the damp, riding in the heat, and you don't ever have to change the setup to be able to ride through all of those different types of terrain and environments, it's ideal.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, so hopefully this helps shed a little bit of light and insight into the different types of boards that are out there in terms of premium versus not premium. But specs versus reality is a subject that I think people really need to consider in a little bit more detail, because just because the website says this is what you're getting, that's not realistically what you're getting. And of course, if you can't test the board out and you're considering buying something and you want to make sure it's the right fit, check forums. Forums are the best way to get unbiased feedback on what the board's performance is like. Yeah. And also check the... in the nicest way, check the style that the people that are giving you feedback ride in. If it's somebody that just rides straight-legged in a straight line down a street, they're not really going to be able to give as much insight into a board's performance as somebody that's a little bit more crazy, a little bit more, dynamic with the way that they ride. But you want to get a realistic opinion and realistic feedback of how a board performs. So those are the points that I'd keep in mind if that's what you're looking for.
Essentially, just do your research.
For sure, because man, that's what kills me when you see these new boards that have just come up of nowhere. Someone's making them out of a garage and they're trying to say that it's just as good as the other boards that cost over $1,000. That's just not the case.
Yeah.
So just bear the points that we've touched on in this video in mind. I'll also link them down below in the video description so you can see the bullet points that we've kind of covered in this video to help you have a list of what you need to consider and check before you pick up a board. But hopefully this has been helpful. I really want to do one of these on hub motors versus direct drive motors versus belt-driven motors.
Yeah, God, that'll be controversial.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff flying around right now that I've seen in comments on videos that we posted about why are you using belt, direct drive is so much better. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to touch on. And then even looking at custom boards versus premium boards.
Yeah.
That's going to be another one. We're going to have to...
There's some seriously good, nice custom boards I've seen out there.
I like after sales service. I like to be able to text someone, call someone, email someone and say, hey, this isn't working. How do I fix it?
Yeah. Whereas I'm the opposite. I just like to tinker with stuff and make it like my own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be good to talk about something like that. But if you've got any suggestions as well, let us know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are and what subjects you'd like us to touch on.
For sure. But as always, keep commenting, keep subscribing, like the video. And if you like this format, let us know and we'll continue doing it. And I guess we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Peace.
Take care.